Welcome to 10-Minute IELTS. Today, we'll be tackling pronunciation, specifically the schwa. This is a common sound that most people have problems with, especially since they mispronounce the schwa as an O sound, such as with this word pronunciation. Now let's see how that sounds as we apply it to this example. In our nation, where there is corruption, we need a decision to find a solution. Well, obviously, that doesn't sound correct because the proper way to pronounce the tion isn't with Sean, but with shan. So try it with me. Read the sentence out loud, but this time use shan at the end of each word. In our nation, where there is corruption, we need a decision to find a solution. So that's how we pronounce any word ending in tion properly, such as pronunciation. Let's try it with the next one. The schwa sound also applies to words ending in ble. As usual, the challenge is, instead of bol, it should be pronounced as bul. Here's a sample of how this sound can be mispronounced. I am not capable of finding a table that is able and stable. My goodness, that does sound painful to the ears. But if we were to apply the proper sound of the schwa, which is bul, then it would sound better. Let's give that a try. Together with me. I am not capable of finding a table that is able and stable. So notice that as we correct these sounds, it sounds more appropriate and fluent. So remember that BLE should be pronounced as bull and not ball. Let's move on to the next one. You'll notice that there's a pattern with words ending in LE. And another sound that has that LE at the end is pull. The problem is some would pronounce PLE as Paul. For example, this apple is a beautiful sample of our staple fruit. I mean, even the name Paul isn't really appropriate. It should be pronounced as PUL. Well, not this one. This is Paul, but pull for the POL sounds. Try it with me. Ready, set. For example, this apple is a beautiful sample of our staple fruit. Now let's move on to the next sound. There is one more syllable that ends in LE, and that is the cull. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, there are some who would pronounce this as COL. For example, I rode the tricycle around the circle to buy a bicycle for my favorite uncle. I'm sure if you've spoken to some Filipinos who have a very thick accent, this is how some of them would pronounce the CLE. If you have this problem yourself, remember to just change the O to U so that it will sound much better. Let's try that out. I rode the tricycle. Let me just correct the spelling there. The tricycle around the circle to buy a bicycle for my favorite uncle. Now it sounds better. We're almost done. Let's move on to the second to the last one, which is SON. Most will assume that the spelling is how we pronounce it. Now, I cannot blame you if that's the case, because that's how I believe we should naturally pronounce words, how they are spelled out, or at least we should spell words as they are pronounced. But in the English language, it can be confusing because even if the word has an O, it's actually pronounced as a U sound, just like sun. I mean, think of it this way. How would we pronounce this sentence if we used S-O-N as it sounds? My son went to Watson's in Robinson's and bought lotion from the salesperson. It is painful to the ear, and so I would like to correct that notion that in the English language we don't pronounce words as they are spelled out. Instead, replace S-O-N with a U so that it will be my son went to Watson's in Robinson's and bought lotion from the salesperson. So I hope you'll never make that mistake again. Make sure to pronounce S-O-N as if you were looking at the sun. Now we're almost done with the sounds. Just one more and we're ready to move on to the challenge. This also applies to words ending in T-O-N. For example, some would pronounce it as it is spelled out again, and you can imagine how painful that will be as we read, while playing a ton of games in badminton, my cotton shirt popped a button. Now, remember what we did a while ago with S-O-N? It's the same thing. We will now just replace the O with a U sound. Take note, all of the sounds at the end of the English language, usually 90% of the time, end with a U sound. And so instead of ton, let's say ton. Ready, set, with me, and while playing a ton of games in badminton, my cotton shirt popped a button. Now it sounds better already. Remember these 5 different types of syllables at the end of each word so that when you see them again, you'll be able to pronounce the schwa properly. Now let's move on to the challenge. The last challenge is simply to read this dialogue out loud. Go ahead and read it for me. I hope you read it out loud so that you'll be able to see if you were able to pronounce it correctly. Here's a sample of how not to pronounce it. What's the commotion, body lotion? Said Uncle Abel to his son named Staple. There's an investigation about the skeleton under your table, Uncle Abel, said Staple. My son, your pronunciation is an abomination. Let me be the spokesperson in the negotiation. Okay, Uncle Abel, said the son named Staple. I hope that's not how you pronounced it. Now here's the correct version. What's the commotion, body lotion? Said Uncle Abel to his son named Staple. There's an investigation about the skeleton under your table, Uncle Abel, said Staple. My son, your pronunciation is an abomination. Let me be the spokesperson in the negotiation. Okay, Uncle Abel, said the son named Staple. And there you have it. In 10 minutes, we've corrected the way you pronounce the schwa. Hopefully, this has been useful to you and that you'll be able to practice. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the 10-Minute IELTS channel. And remember that if this pronunciation challenge doesn't apply to you, you can always click on the link in the description below for online coaching. The best way to identify which specific sounds you're having problems with is to have a coach assess what syllables you tend to mispronounce. Well, those are my 10 minutes. I hope this has been helpful. Good luck with your review.